The old wheel loader, the JCB 411 HT, it has seen some use last summer, road constructions or maintenance, and it's being used for clearing snow this winter. I'm gonna bring up here early in the video that it's been drinking, well, I would say way too much oil. I've probably filled at least 8 liters in 500 hours, and it doesn't appear to be leaking really out of the engine, so it seems to be drinking it. One of the little rubber boots on the intake might have a tiny tear, and it has I can notice leaks there, so I suspect the turbo or the crankcase ventilation that could feed oil into the intake. Rigged up a plastic can with a hole in it and a little piece of some ventilation foam, something to reroute the crankcase ventilation into this. And I just plugged up the hose that connects to the recirculation, where it normally goes back into the combustion through the turbo, and to rule out try to figure out where the oil is leaking into the combustion. It smokes a tiny bit at times, but not extreme. We bought a corrugated steel for to bolt onto the bucket to get a little more, not have a smooth surface. The conclusion regarding the oil is that it has to feed some oil from the turbo. The bucket that catches the crankcase does not really collect any oil, so I might have to look at changing the turbo in the future. More on that later. I think a lot of the lights on the machine have been replaced from the original parts. Up here, the rotating warning light, the orange one, needed a new bulb, and one of the red rear lights up at the ceiling here was dead. It has power there, but the light is not turning on, and it does not seem possible to get hold of a direct replacement. And you can see they have just bolted it with some sheet metal screws, and it has been replaced at some point with something that's not original. And I will probably look at buying some new lights to replace both of them up there. One of the working lights up here was bad also, so that was replaced. The lack of a grab handle on the left side of the door has been annoying. If you've seen other JCB models, the same model have one, and they do offer something, but it's kind of a tight fit, as you can fold the machine in on itself, and having it mounted at the lower position would cause issues, so we decided to go with a higher one. Some drilling required once we've figured out where the hole needed to be. The metal here is kind of thin, but the thick washer, big washer on the inside here should strengthen things up. A little tricky getting up in there behind the plastic, getting the washer and nut in place. And here is how it turned out.
Jag vill kolla till det där och svänga Max en gång till, men jag tror inte vi startar en enkom för det.
One mirror had cracked this winter when we tried doing some adjustments, so a new glass for that was ordered. The turbo I looked at because it has been drooling a little from one of the rubbers from the turbo to the intake. And checking on the axle, there is absolutely zero play in and out and side to side. Might be 0.3, 0.4 of a millimeter when I try to measure it, but I think I'm gonna look at replacing the turbo in the near future. I did remove the intake pipe, and here it has had the catch can for the crankcase ventilation for quite a few hours this winter, and check how the intake was looking, and it has some oily residue, and the rubbers here that connects it to the turbo and to the intake, they feel old, and they were not possible to buy as a new original replacement. Luckily they are just straight rubber pieces that are 2-inch inner diameter, so easy to find other sources for them. One side where the rubber connects, it was kind of rough casting surface. I smoothed that out a little with some sandpaper since it was off the machine. And then we're gonna start looking at the door, because it has not wanted to close the door very well. It's kind of crooked, quite open at the top left part here, and it doesn't engage fully with the latch. And on the back side of the door, the rear side, you can see here it compresses the gasket very hard once it do latch, so it might have gotten a little bit of a crooked hinge at some point, but starting to bend anything here felt hard, so the plan is to remove the door and add some spacers. To access and remove the door, this entire big plastic thing behind the seat need to be removed. There is kind of a lid, the compartment you can just lift away, that covers the fuses on the right side, and behind there are a couple of bolts hidden. There is also kind of a big metal bracket holding things in place at the bottom, held in place with a couple of bolts. And this is kind of connected with a channel that feeds air through to the vent. You can see, and it started to feel loose and could be lifted out. I'm gonna assemble it in a little bit of a different way, you will see, but that gives access to all the nuts holding the door in place. And I'm wondering if this really is the way they built it at the factory. The lid here for that holds the filter in place is kind of just put down into a crack in the plastic here. It doesn't feel, looks like it has an opening for the bottom tang of that lid, but that's the way it is. And here they had just screwed in wooden screws holding the plastic together. They hadn't used molded in nuts that are included in the channel for the ventilation. But and when assembly I did rework this, and the alignment might not be super good, so they were probably just annoyed with this and just said fuck it, let's use the self-drilling wooden screws. Did add some self-adhesive thin foam here to kind of make a seal for the air duct, allow the filters to do the proper job, reduce the amount of dust collecting in places where it shouldn't. Added some foam to the bottom here where the little metal bracket clamps this duct down. That's not for any air circulation, it's just to reduce any kind of vibrating noise from it. And here it used to have kind of an elastic strap where you could place a bottle of water or something, and the elastic was really bad, so we just took a piece of old inner hose, some rubber, and made a new elastic thing that will probably hold the water bottle a lot better if you want to bring one. And no, this is not the tap water where I live. It's actually water with some liquid soap added to it to used for finding leaks in the garage, but it's the same kind of bottle we usually bring for something to drink. There are some plastic covers, two at the top and then two at the bottom, where you can find the nuts that hold the door hinge in place. Was a little worried about dropping the nuts inside the frame and not being able to recover them, so put a little bit of tape in the socket so it would grab better. Some plastic trim on the bolt holding it's kind of a safety strap, not allowing the door to swing up too far. And then a bolt. It has a gas strut that you
Ja.
need to loosen to be able to take the door off. A ladder and move a wooden piece in the roof construction here to have a mounting point for lifting the door on and off. Some suitable straps and one of them chain hoists and some more straps to wrap around the door because it's kind of heavy. It's not something you want to just stand and hold. And then the nuts could be removed, and I might have lost some washers in the frame there because I heard something rattle and they are now lost if so. And the door could be lowered. Lower corner of the door started seeing some rust, and we tried cleaning off the worst of the rust and adding some paint to uh, extend the life. We tried to peel away the gasket a little and do a kind of an ugly but preventive rust maintenance. We worked on the inside of the door first and then the outside, just brushing away the worst of the rust and using some paint that is supposed to be able to handle some rust. Had cut out some aluminum pieces to make spacers for the door, trying to get it to close a little better. And my measurement wasn't good, so I just made the holes a little bigger. And some paint going on the front side of the door. The color might not be perfect, but it's a lot better than it being rusty. Cleaned up inside the cab. I removed here. It had some like foam material that where the air duct connects to the frame behind the seat. Added some new foam on there, just cut strips of what I had laying around the garage and installed that. Should seal a lot better than the old stuff that was falling apart. And here we have the lower corner all painted, looking nice. The liner around the door is a little worn and the metal had started to get kind of thin here, so a little bit of black silicone was added to help hold it in place and seal everything up. Some luggage straps and a block of wood to help push things into place as the silicone sets. And here you can see the crack in the plastic where they actually fit the cover of the filter that sits here. Could this be the original solution? They just forced it down and created a crack, or what have happened here? I don't know. Since it was apart and easy access, a little bit of lubrication for the linkage for the door handle can never hurt. And from what we can understand, the sliding glass here, that is not possible to remove in any way. The bracket holding it is welded in place. There is absolutely no way to replace this without cutting off the lower part. There are no bolts, no nothing. So I guess this is assembled and then welded with the glass in place. That's my only thought process how they assembled this. I wanted to reinstall the felt. There is like a felt seal here. The seals were inside the cab of the machine but loose because the adhesive had gone bad. And I was gonna see if I could reinstall it. Wanted to clean up here. I guess if you break the glass on this door, you don't replace the glass, you buy a new door. That's probably how they solved that at JCB. With some plastic pieces I could line up the felt and then peel away the protection on the new adhesive and secure one side in place. Tried doing something similar for the other one, but it had to be kind of wedged in there and the pressure was just too great. It started tearing the protection. It didn't go on there smoothly, so that wasn't working. We had to redo it and we tried a couple of times and it just didn't work. And apparently I ran out of battery in the camera. After a few times we tried it, I reverted to the method I use when I install grips on the motorcycles. I have a bottle of hairspray in the garage because if you spray a lot of it, it lubricates and then it dries and kind of glues itself in place. So I removed the protective film, sprayed it, and shoved it in there, and then I could tighten the other felt strip piece that I hope will be secure. We opened the window so they would kind of press against each other for a while it was in here in the heat in the garage. The new rubber pieces for the intake were a little bit too long and required a little trimming, but the cutting disc and the angle grinder made a nice clean cut and they could be installed. Does it look out of place that I ordered them in blue? They had them in black also, but I figured blue would be nice. Time to reinstall the door. The chain host lifted it up. My dad had made this wooden cradle at the bottom. That might have been a little bit overkill, but it didn't take a long time to make. Once installed, we had one spacer both at the upper and lower hinge, but it still clamps down really hard on the rear end of the door. So, and the upper left corner is still kind of open. So we ended up deciding that we we're gonna put 3 spacers at the bottom hinge and 2 at the upper hinge and try again. So it was loosened and more spacers were added. And when we now tried closing, it still was acting up, and we realized the holes are elongated, and if it's at the bottom position it kind of hits the floor in the cab, and we loosened it and pulled it up a little more, and now it closes really nicely. The first few tests closing it, that's before we pulled it up a little, and the pressure on the gasket seems good, but as you can see here it's not wanting to close fully. So on with the chain hoist again, loosen things up and lift it as high as it would possibly go. It's only a couple of millimeters you can adjust here, maybe 6 at most, but it seems to be enough. This is the best it's ever closed since I've been near the machine at least, so we're calling it good. One thing that started happening, that it started squeaking a bit, could be that we have the crookedness in the hinges, but we are adding some lube to it and hope it goes away with some wear. And yes, I have shaved, and I blame the wide angle lens on the double chin. That's not true at all.
Ja, det är som.
The gas strut and the safety strap was installed. That was really simple. Then rather than bring them in as a unit, as I brought them out with the ventilation channel and that plastic cover, I wanted to get the ventilation part into place first and make sure that's secured and so on. So started with that. And with the added foam at the bottom here, the bolts were too short, but I could find a couple longer ones that seemed to work. And with that secure, I could start bringing in the big plastic cover back here, making sure that the lines with a little hook at the top that kind of holds the top end into place, because most of the bolts securing it are further down. And here near the filter they had used those wood screws holding things in place, and it was a little bit of a struggle getting things to align, but not too bad using the original mounting points. Had to remove the bracket again, because there are a couple of more bolts holding things together behind it. and they were simply missing. They had ignored installing them altogether, but I figured I would put a couple in place here also, reduce the rattle in the cab. And the bracket at the bottom goes back into place. And the filter that sits there in the cab is this foam style, and it can be kind of taken out of the frame it sits in. It's very expensive to buy as a new part from JCB at least, and it seemed to be a cleanable one. And I'm gonna start adding some filter oil to this and clean it every now and then. I think I will do it as a yearly thing together with the three-wheelers. They have foam filters on them also, so, and it's a very coarse filter, but I think some oil there will help trap some dirt and dust. Putting it back into the frame, the original one that was in there was kind of starting to fall apart a little, so it was replaced when the machine was first purchased, and I was surprised at the price of this filter, to be honest. So I don't think I will ever buy a new one of these filters. I will look at getting some new foam material from somewhere else and reusing the frame indefinitely.
Well,
We did do a good cleanup of the cab now while working on it. We started looking at cleaning the windows also, but it was a little too cold to get a good result. So we'll need to give the windows a little more cleaning when it gets warmer.
då var han försiktig då.
Here you can
Där har ni
hear
satt i
the
första läget.
squeaking
Och så lite rejälare.
that
Ja, det
started
fortfarande bra.
after the adjustment. We did
Det är
try
bra
to
där.
lube it a little. I also bought a couple of new of these small plastic ventilation covers that's on the door. The new mirror glass had arrived. We put a tiny bit of silicone around inside the frame and clamped it into place for a little bit. That should help with it not rattling around, because the rubber that goes around it is kind of old and stiff. I've been a little annoyed with how much I need to twist my head around looking into the mirrors. Sure, it has the backup camera and everything like that. We tried pivoting the arms forward and having the mirror in that location so you could see it in front of the cabin pillar, and had my dad sit there to do the adjustments, and we did it on both sides, and I haven't used it much since doing this, but I like it. So that was a few small fixes on the old wheel loader. The main part of this was adjusting the door to work a little better. Hope it helped someone out. If not, I hope you still enjoyed the video if you have been watching this far. Have an absolutely amazing day. Thanks for watching.